Hey everyone, welcome to the last van build video in this series. At this point in the van build, we were rushing to finish everything in time for an appointment to have some things professionally installed in the van. As you can see in this clip, we're building our second kitchen counter, which will go on the driver's side of the van, and in this video we'll install it, finish our plumbing, and also finish our 230 volts wiring.
Oh, very uncomfortable spot to sit.
I'm so sorry.
I see it. Good job. Pull. I can't pull any further.
Yeah, don't go too hard.
We had our 230 volt outlets left to wire in the van, so we started by mounting the 230 volt breaker box on our wall, connecting the cables from the 230 volt pre-wiring to the top of the breaker, and then connecting the breaker to the inverter using ferrules on the inverter end. We've done the connections from the breaker to the inverter. Now we're just gonna ground this whole thing. Now we're gonna take a 12 to 10 gauge heat shrink ring connector. Now I'm gonna crimp it with our heat shrink crimping tool. Yeah,
Nice.
it's crimped.
I just finished doing the connection for the ground. I'm gonna turn the system back on, all of it. And we're gonna try turning on the inverter, see if it blows the breaker.
Now he's gonna flip the switch of the inverter.
I'm gonna flip the switch on the inverter. You ready?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. It's on.
Oh my god.
Nothing happens, and it's on.
Now we need to go grab something to test it with.
We're not gonna hide it, we already tested it. iPhone charger.
Woohoo!
We tested every single one of them, by the way. All of them work.
Yeah, all of them work, even the ones inside the cupboard.
Woohoo!
They don't have the covers on yet. They're just like this matte black double ones.
Yeah. With just one set of cables, we can wire for both.
Yeah. That's awesome. Our mission for this evening is to put in our fridge. Before we can put in our fridge, we have some random things that we have to do regarding plumbing because our water tank is sitting underneath me right now. So we need to do all of the plumbing and wiring. All of those things are going to have to pass behind where the fridge is going to be. We need to do these things before we can actually fill this gap with the fridge. So this cable I have in my hand right now is the cable we're going to use to wire our water pump. We've stripped the cables and we're ready to start doing the wiring to the fuse block. The cable is going behind the bed and behind the kitchen unit, and then we're going to pass it to the compartment that's going to be the underneath of the sink. That's where we're going to do all of the wiring afterwards.
Right, so now comes the moment you've been waiting for. We're gonna try using our 2000 watt heat gun with our 2000 watt inverter. We actually did some research, some light research about this, and the worst that can happen is the inverter just doesn't power it.
It's hot. I think it's because we're using the minimum, so the minimum probably isn't 2000.
I reckon. Put it on 2.
No, I'm not putting it on 2. I'm not testing our luck here.
Do it.
No. I'm just gonna pass them inside the cupboard.
Right, so I just made the connection for the water pump. It's this one right here, the positive, and the negative is right there.
We got the fridge from upstairs and we fit it into place. We're missing the fridge door and some hardware and all of the shelves and drawers inside the fridge because we just carried it down without those to make it lighter. We have our fridge wire. This is what we have to hook up to our pre-wiring that we have here. We're going to use 2 Wagos to do this connection, one to the positive and one to the negative, so that it's easy to remove in case we ever want to undo this connection. Rico mounted the hardware to have the door on, and now we just have to do all of the wiring at the back of the fridge. Blue to red, black from the fridge to brown of the pre-wiring.
We're using a 7.5 amp spade fuse.
Rico made the connection to the fuse block and put in the 7.5 amp fuse. It's working. We're currently putting the screws inside the fridge to connect it to the braces that we put in on the sides of the cupboard for it. That was a bit of a mission.
Yeah. Well, you did it though.
Tomorrow, plumbing. In preparation to do the plumbing, we've put in this piece of wood in the middle of our cupboard. This is going to support our pump and our accumulator, so it had to be kind of like a sturdier piece. Now that that's in, I'm going to install this piece of wall in front of it. This is where all of our plumbing's going to live. It's kind of a tight spot. We're hoping it fits. So the first step is going to be hooking up this tap. I've put that in as much as I can do it. It didn't go in all the way. Rico says it's fine. Now I'm going to tighten this brace. So I'm just going to put some Loctite in this plastic male bit that's going to go into our female, that's the tap. Okay, so that's how much we got it in. We had to use the heat gun to make this a little bit more pliable so that we could do it. Now I'm just going to put in, what's this called again, hon? Sorry.
The tube clip.
The tube clip. So we've been like trying to figure out where we're going to put the pump and the accumulator. We still haven't 100% figured it out, unfortunately. But we did move the piece of wood that we'd put in. We moved it like basically just a bit higher up. Turns out we're going to do the plumbing from the right to the left. Because we already are occupying so much space here just with the little tap thing. This is quite a small space and we need to be able to fit both of these appliances on the wall. We just couldn't do it having to start like after that. Rico already set up our connection between the pump and accumulator. We're using these wing nuts that are 10 millimeters on the inside, and we're using this tube that's 10 millimeters on the inside, but it's quite thick. This is the thickest tube we have. The point between the pump and the accumulator is where the pressure of the water is going to be worse, like strongest. So we wanted to make sure we had something really sturdy. Alright, that's what we got. So now that has to go up on the wall. So we've put in the SureFlow pump. We're going to leave it linked below, the one we went for. It comes with a filter, but we're not going to be able to use this filter because the input barb part that it has, it's for a 12 mil inside diameter tube, and we have 10 mil, so this doesn't fit. So we're going to have to get a filter exactly like this, but that has the same output and input. The next step is pressurizing our C-Flow accumulator. This is the machine we bought. We also will leave it linked below.
Right now I'm setting the pressure to be 17 psi.
If I told you the amount of hours it took us to do this, you would be flabbergasted. We made this little handy drawing to figure out the wiring to the pump. We bought this little switch. It comes with like a 3M tape type thing behind. So we're gonna put it here, I think, more towards the front so that if we want to, we can turn our pump on and off easily. So we have the pump here, and the pump has a positive and a negative. The positive from the pump needs to connect to the white and black positive of the switch. The switch only has positives. The positive pre-wiring wire connects to the black positive wire in the switch. And then the negative from the pre-wiring connects directly to the negative from the pump. We're gonna start by just peeling off this backing. Ooh, that's nice. So I'm just gonna assume we're kind of gonna do the connection here. So I'm gonna cut around there to leave a bit of room. That's it. Okay, they're stripped. The negative from the pump is going to connect to our negative from the pre-wiring. This is the stupidest tube of silicone we've ever seen in our lives. But it's good, it's like food safe and everything, so we wanted to use it. But it doesn't come in like the regular silicone gun, but it should, because it's freaking impossible to take out of the thing. Rico did the most of it. All of the clean looking parts he did. I did the messy, like, little bits of silicone. Okay, let me get the stuff off of the sink.
Sink in, okay?
We're gonna let that sink in. Someone needs to put it in, and then the other person needs to lower it down. I don't mind being the lower down person, but you need to put the camera down.
I'm gonna let go.
You can let go.
Can I?
Yeah.
It's huge as
nice.
well, right?
It's a very deep sink. It's 40 by 40 by 20. So the depth is 20.
Put my head in here.
Okay, now we have to put in the faucet. We've also siliconed in these trim pieces of the same wood that we used for the countertops to create some little like shelves on the wall.
Whoa, look at this!
I don't know whether we want it at this, like this.
No.
I think that's better actually, honey. You see?
What about the front? Let me see the front.
In terms of practicality of using it,
I think that's better.
that's a bit better, isn't it? Cool. Okay, I'm gonna go from underneath and I'm gonna put these 3 things in. So rubber first, then this little washer guy, then this thing that we're gonna have to tighten.
The friendly neighborhood sink monster. This is gonna be me if I'm washing the dishes and you're bothering me.
This is all
Aesthetic.
gonna be tiled with fake tiles.
Exciting.
This is our countertop. It looks gorgeous. We've just added this like these 2 pieces of trimming at the back to like be like a splash zone type of thing. Later tonight I'm going to come down and I'm going to do this part, which is going to be just the most exciting part for me.
This is Nish meticulously cutting every piece of tile to fit the backsplash. She initially fit some in the cubbies, but she thought it didn't look as good, so she removed it. This was a very difficult task, but I think she did great.
This is what we've got done for our plumbing thus far. At the bottom left corner, you can see our water hose that's coming from the water tank, and then it goes into this little adapter thing that's a tap so that we can turn the water off this system from there on out if we want. The filter for the pump, we had to replace it. It used to be this, and we replaced it with that. Well, there's a big difference between them. It's the fact that this one's small and that one's big, but there's also a difference in the connections from and to the filter. This one has female threading on both sides, and we're going to leave it linked below. We bought these push fit connectors. This part, this male threading, is 1/2 inch, which fits into the connector here. Okay, so we've got a really small piece of tube. I'm gonna stick it in there. Push fits corner piece. Alright, so we put in the tubing, we connect it to the tap. Now I'm gonna put in this connector, and now we just have to connect this tube to this tube, and we will have the plumbing up to the accumulator done. Then we just have to do the accumulator to the tap. We put a small piece of tubing through the barb of the wing nut that's gonna go on that side of the accumulator. So now I'm just gonna use a clip. We've put in the corner piece. Now we need to put a little bit of tubing in and then use our Y adapter because we're only going to have cold water in here. So we want to feed cold water into both the hot and the cold tubing, so we're using a Y adapter for that. So I just removed our corner piece to make the connection outside of the darkness of that corner. Our brand new,
Very hard to find.
push fit to 3/8
Of an inch.
First we bought 1/2 inch, then we bought 1/4 inch, and now finally we arrived at the conclusion that it's actually 3/8.
It's working.
Yeah.
We had this massive leak. This is why Nish did this now, just to prevent any leakings. Basically, our issue for the leak was that our quick connectors, they weren't put in all the way in. Even if the quick connector goes in and locks, that does not mean it's all the way that it can go. You really have to force that in. Alright? So that's what we did. So we basically had to redo the sizing of the tubings that we had put in.
We fixed the last leak we had on this wing nut right here, connecting the water pump to the accumulator. On this wing nut, we replaced the tubing connecting the water pump and the accumulator. It was this very thick tube. It's the same inside diameter, but it was much thicker. I don't know if you can see that thickness. So we replaced it with the same tube that we used pretty much everywhere else. So let's test it. So once the push fit connectors and that tube was replaced, we didn't have any more leaks and the system worked perfect. Thank you so much for watching today's video. This is the last van build video in this series. I know that we left a lot of loose ends, but the van is now complete. We just had a very tight schedule because we needed to get everything ready to get some stuff professionally installed, didn't we?
We put in a bunch of windows. We put in an undermounted LPG tank.
Yeah.
And a
Gray water tank. And a bunch of other little things like locks and a step to get into the van.
So do let us know if you guys want to see a full-on van tour now that everything is built and we're actually living in it. Comment down below if you want to see a van tour. Another important notice is that from now on, we're going to change our posting schedule. We're going to post every Saturday at 5 p.m. GMT.
GMT time.
Yeah.
GMT time, GMT.
GMT. 5 p.m. GMT.
The next video is going to be our move into the van video, where we bring all of our crap into the van and fit it all in.
Yeah,
or not, we don't know.
That was very
leave
tough.
It pending.
Yeah.
From then on, we're going to start posting our travel videos, and you're going to just start coming along with us on our adventures, which is going to be obviously the funnest part.
Very fun for us as well.
For everyone involved.
So thank you so much for sticking by us on this incredible journey.
We'll see you guys next Saturday. Bye!
Bye!